It works. It works. Okay, everybody cheer. Yay! Oh, come on, better than that. You guys do it. Loud. Cheer. Yay! Okay, where is everybody? All right, so it's working. So, Mark chapter 6. Now, this verse 45. There it is, up on the wall. Mark chapter 6, verse 45. This really could become one of your all-time favorite miracles. Now, one of the questions I'm going to ask you, are some miracles more difficult than others for Jesus to do? Yeah, see, that, yeah, but you're talking about creating stars and you're talking about healing some sick person, right? So we got all sorts of, is Jesus indefatigable? Does Jesus ever get tired?
Yes.
Well, you just said no, now you said yes. Which one's it going to be?
No for the first question.
Is he indefatigable? So he is fatigable. Right, because we see him fall asleep in the back of a boat. We see him get exhausted. We see him get angry. When do you get angry? When we're tired and stuff like that, right? But so there's lots of good questions here in Mark chapter 6, verse 45. So immediately he made his disciples. So immediately means something happened right away, just after something else. So what happened right before this? That's right, the bread and the juice. No, not the juice, just the bread. Jesus had fed the 5,000 people. So there were 5,000 men, there were women and children, so there's probably 12, 15,000. We can't quite know that. Some people have bigger families, so there's more than 10,000. And Jesus decorated the hillside. Remember, he decorated the hillside, green grass, these Orientals, Asian types, with lots of bright greens and reds and blues. So Jesus kind of planted pots up on the plant of pots of people up on the green. And so he got all these people out. He fed them all. The disciples packed up their stuff, put all their food, all the leftover food, and what they do with all their pajamas and iPads.
Put them in baskets.
They were under their arm because their baskets were filled with food. Because off we go. So immediately after Jesus feeds these 5,000 people, he makes his disciples. So who's in control here? Well, Jesus is in control because he makes his disciples get into the boat. Now, don't miss this part, and go ahead of him to the other side. He makes them get in the boat to go ahead of him. Now, if I said, Tommy, get in the boat and go ahead, get on the lake and go, you're going to think, okay, I got it, I'm in the boat. But there's a piece missing here. Well, if I get in the boat and we get in the boat and the boat takes off, Jesus, what are you going to do? Are we going to leave you here? We're going to get in the boat and leave. He says, you guys go ahead. And the clear implication here is that I'll be there later. And they go, how's that going to happen? And when they answer, well, they don't know. And we don't know either. So just get in the boat and go. So go ahead and meet to the other side to Bethsaida. So we're the Sea of Galilee way up top. They're going over to the other side of the lake. And he dismisses the crowd. Now, if we were at, Cleveland Cavaliers Arena over at Oracle or something like that, okay, everybody time to go home, right? He didn't get to do that. He's standing there by the seaside. You got 10, 12,000 people all spread out. And he has to go tell everybody to go home. So how long does it take him to tell everybody to go home? How long does it take to tell 10,000 people in groups of 1,500 to go home? What's 1,000 divided by 100? Or 10,000 divided by 100? That's a lot, right? So 10,000 divided by 100 is 100, right? 100 times 100, right? So Jesus has to go to each group one by one, say, okay, you guys can leave now. Okay, you guys can leave now. So you see it takes longer for these things to happen than it does for us to read that they happened, right? It takes longer for these things to happen. They don't happen instantly. Just because he sent them home, now they're gone. No, he has to take time to do this. So he's going around telling everybody to go home. And after he says goodbye to them, he went to the mountain to pray. Whoa! You see, he had escaped over to this side of the lake to get away so that he could rest. The disciples, they're going to get a chance to rest, or at least they think they will because they're getting into the boat. Jesus climbs a mountain. When's the last time you climbed a mountain when you're exhausted? He had just created out of his hand all this food for all these people. And we know that Jesus uses energy. He uses power when he does miracles. How do we know that? Remember the woman who touched his cloak. He was in the crowd getting smushed. Woman reached up and touches his cloak. Jesus, who touched me? I perceive that power has gone out of me. He feels the power drain. So we know that Jesus feels power is great. Before he calmed the sea, he was laying in the back. He was zonked out because he was exhausted from everything he did. And so we know that Jesus gets tired, and here he is, he's doing day after day after day, feeding and feeding and creating, and he goes mountain climbing. So he either never gets tired, or he's a dude. He's really a dude. He's really strong. He is what we would call a man's man, a person's person. He's a man. He is strong. And he would get that strength from carpentering, carrying tables around, picking up wagons and putting on wheels. And, he had spent his younger years growing up becoming strong. So he's not only physically strong, he's got this character about him that just simply will not give up. I'm not giving up. What are you, nuts? I'm not going to do it. He goes mountain climbing. What in the world? Something different about this person that's different from everybody else we know. And he goes up there to pray. Now, we've talked about this before. If Jesus is God, and this if doesn't mean if that's possible, it would be in that Jesus is God. When he goes off to pray, who's he talking to? He's talking to himself. How's that work? How does it work that he's talking to himself? Well, because Jesus, as God, has different responsibilities. He has to keep the world worldly. He has to keep the world functioning. The earths have to spin, suns have to sun, and stars have to star. Winds have to wind, and oceans have to ocean. He has to keep the whole wide world going. And then you got the Spirit who indwells in people and gives them the power to be faithful. And then he's a human who's mountain climbing and tired and all these things here. And so Jesus has three different responsibilities going on in his life. And he has to figure out, well, how am I going to do that? I have my brother and sister. I'm pretty sure they're watching here if they found the link. Hey, Jay. And so you get the picture. I'm a dad. Yesterday was my daughter's birthday. When's your birthday, Jane? 2 days ago. So Friday, 27th. So Mia's 26th. So Mia's is 27th. So we're celebrating today, and I'm here instead of there. I want to go eat birthday cake. So I'm a dad, right? I'm also a brother because I have family, right? And see, what else am I? I'm also a son because I have parents. So sometimes my dad, if he were alive, he would say, Billy, I want you to come do this. Okay, let me think. And then my daughter, Mia, said, Daddy, I want you to do this. So I got son getting a request, daddy getting a request, and brother getting requested. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I got three things. I got to go figure this out. So I'll sit and talk to myself until I figure it out. That's what Jesus is doing. He has these self-imposed limitations as a human, but he still has the responsibilities of being God. So he's going to have to go up on the mountain. How am I going to do this? I got to figure this out. So when Jesus goes off to pray, he goes off with his face toward God, the creator of the universe, but the responsibility toward the people who he just fed. And he's going to figure this out. So Jesus goes up, climbs the mountain, goes up to pray, well into the night. How late is into the night? Pretty dark. Yeah, very late. Yeah, like 11, 12, 1. Well into the night. The boat is in the middle of the sea. The boat. Now, how would Jesus know that? Because he climbs up on the mountain. When you climb up on the mountain, you can see, oh, look at that. They are out there. There they are. I can see them out there. Because if you climb up on the mountain, look out on the sea, oh, you can see way out. How far can you see if you stand at sea level? I know that. If you're standing on the sea, how far can you see? Jose, can you see? How far can you see? 11 miles. You can see 11 miles because then the earth will curve. Right? Then the earth will curve, and then you can't see anymore. But if you go up higher, you can see farther and farther. So we learn from John that there's several stadiums. It's about 4 or 5 kilometers, 3-4 miles out. That's how far. They've been rowing the boat since 6 p.m. till midnight. For 6 hours, they had rowed those boats about 3 miles. We can figure that's hard work. And Jesus is up there. He can see them out there. Now, how would he be able to see them? Moonlight, okay? Jesus vision. He got night goggles. So we got Jesus vision. We got the moon. So Jesus sees him out there, and he was alone on the land, and he saw them straining. Don't forget this word, straining. This word is tortured. They were being tortured by the waves. Have you ever tried to row a boat on a really, really rough sea? Yeah, try it sometime. You'll get wet. Trust me. I'm just trying. River rafting. Yeah, try and row your boat up the river raft. Go the opposite direction. Yeah, that was way too hard. So not quite that hard, but you get this vision of they were being tortured. It said they were straining. It's a passive, means it was happening to them. They were being tortured by the waves at the oars while they were like this, because the wind was against them. The wind was opposing them. Like that, right? Very early in the morning. Very early. What time is very early in the morning? Very early, right? Yeah, earlier than that. Yeah, 5, 4, 3. This is called the last watch, between 3 and 6 a.m. Between 3 and 6 a.m. And one of the other verses, one of the other accounts says between 3 and 6 a.m. They're up there in it's very early in the morning. He comes to them walking on the sea. And he was going to pass by them. He was going to pass alongside them. By is better. He's going to pass alongside. He's coming up to them. He comes walking on the sea. Now, I want to know, how did he do that? Did he magic? Yeah. Did he sprout wings and just kind of floated above and moved his legs? Did he get little balloons on his feet all of a sudden? He can like balloon walked on top of the water. Is that how he did it? We actually know how he did this, because there was somebody else in the water with him. Who else was in the water with Jesus? That's right, Peter. Satan. No, Satan, he wouldn't get into it. Peter was in the water. We know the story, right? So Jesus is walking on the water. Peter says, "Oh, if that's you, let me come to you, Lord." Jesus, okay, come on, get out. So Peter gets out. He starts walking on the water. Oh, he sees this. He sees everything going. That's pretty rough out here. I'm scared. He starts sinking down. And Jesus picks him up by the hand, takes him up, and puts him in the boat. So Peter actually goes out walking on the water. Well, who told this story here? Peter. See, Peter would know because he was out there doing that. He followed Jesus. So Peter is an eyewitness of what's happening here. And Peter tells us that very early in the morning, he came toward them walking on the sea. There's a very specific preposition that Greeks will use, like in, on, by, of, with, and all that kind of thing. On means the bottoms of his sandals physically made contact with the sea. And then, because Jesus could do the supernatural, the sea's molecular structure, everything that seas are supposed to do, stopped doing that and changed into such a form that it could support him. He caused the water to be unwatery by touching it with his sandal. He physically touched the water and walked on it. That's cool. But now, there's something missing in this account of Mark, right? There's something missing. We do not see the part where Peter walked out on the sea. Why do we not see that? Because it's embarrassing. Don't tell them the part where Peter's telling Mark this story. By the absence of the fact, we get some personality here. Don't tell them about the part where I went out in the water and sunk because I got scared. He leaves that part out. So we have to go read Matthew and Luke's account and John's account to find out how that happened. Peter omits it here, but we get the part of he walks on the sea and he wanted to go by them. When they saw him with his feet making contact with the water, they thought it was a ghost. They thought this guy, this apparition, this phantasma, there's something out there. It's walking out. We can see it. It's coming toward us. They thought it was a ghost. Jane, you believe in ghosts? No. Matthew, you believe in ghosts? Well, if you don't, you will now, because the simple truth is, I once had a ghost in my car. Yeah, I had a ghost in my car. Yeah. Now, this is kind of a long story, so bear with me. See, the simple truth is, I'm much like Jane. I did not believe in ghosts. I didn't, but that's a past tense. I have to change my thinking now because there was that ghost in my car. There she is. So I come from Cincinnati. If you look on a map of the Midwest, you got Ohio, then you got Indiana. They kind of kiss each other, and you got Kentucky underneath. Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky. where they all connect. That's called the tri-state. There are 3 states. They connect to each other. And Cincinnati sits down right there where all these 3 states connect to each other. Something there? Got a ghost in your pocket there? All right, so you got these 3 states, and Cincinnati sits right there. Well, I went to Cincinnati Bible College, and on the weekend, every weekend, we were required to go visit churches to practice teaching and preaching and Sunday schooling, all that kind of stuff. So on the weekends, churches will call the Bible College, and we need somebody to come. And so it was my turn to go. And I had this place, it was called Cynthiana, Kentucky. I was on my way to Cynthiana, Kentucky. It's about 4 miles from Cincinnati to the deep inside Kentucky. Now, this is 100 years ago. Cincinnati sits on the Ohio River. When you cross the Ohio River, you go from big city, relatively big city. You go from big city, you cross the river, and it becomes country really, really fast. Nothing but hills and hillbillies, and it just gets really green and really, it gets really country really fast. And so I was supposed to be at church on Sunday morning by 9 o'clock or something. But on Saturday night before, we had a basketball game, homecoming. I want to go see the homecoming game. So I'm going to watch homecoming. I'll get in my car. I'll drive through night, and it takes me 4 hours. I'll be there by 2 a.m., 3 a.m. I'm young. I can sleep. Then I'll wake up at 9. I'll do the church thing. No problem. So I watched the basketball game, 10 p.m. Saturday night. I crossed the river, head towards Cynthiana, Kentucky. But I had a Volkswagen. Old style. Get the little round looking things? I had a bug. I had one of the original bugs. My bug was a 1960 bug. Now, the difference between a 1960 bug and a 1961 bug is 1960 bugs did not have a gas gauge on. Really? You just kind of drove the thing until it runs out of gas. And then but when the car runs out of gas, there's an emergency tank. This is true. There's an emergency tank. You flip the switch to the emergency tank, and you're good for about 10 miles. So you run out of gas, and you head for a gasoline station. If you don't get there within 10 miles, you push. I'm an expert pusher of cars. I can push cars. I can pick up a Volkswagen almost. And so I have my old Volkswagen. I decided I'm going to drive my Volkswagen, go see these people. Well, it's 10 o'clock at night. I'm driving for about 2 hours. And totally spaced out. I forgot to buy gas. But now it's midnight. And I'm out in the middle of nowhere. I tell you, Kentucky, I love Kentucky, but it's the middle of nowhere. When you're out in the middle of Kentucky, you're in the middle of nowhere, right, Jerry? There's nothing out there. Well, nobody knows the answer to this, but there's a law of the universe, hey, Gene. When you're in the middle of the night and the car runs out of gas, what happens? No, yeah. No, when it's the middle of the night, you run out of gas, you're in the middle of nowhere, middle of the night, you run out of gas, what happens? It starts raining.
No, you wake up.
No, it starts raining. I mean, it was like, what in the world? Who's somebody laughing at me here? Because as soon as I ran out of gas, it starts raining. Rain. So I flip on my switch. I flip on my emergency. This is a true story, guys. Okay, just bear with me. I flip on the emergency. I got about 10 miles to go in the middle of the night. And my windshield wipers on the old Volkswagen about the size of my finger. They're little tiny things. The heater is useless. The heater is like little windows come out here. Little vents come out the side. So like this. And raining. There's a sign, some podunk town. I don't remember the name of the town. 10 miles away. I can make it. So I drive real slow, mind the moment. Drive. And there's this road, really long road, straight as can be. Sharp turn left, heads into town. So I'm driving. And I get down to this corner, raining. There was somebody walking on the street at that corner. I think, that's weird. I turn, I go into the town. Of course, everything's closed, black as can be. There's an old gasoline station with, looks like a square thing with a little round head on it. You see them in the movies sometimes, look just like that. I could have pumped the gas myself, but I didn't know that. I thought it was turned off. It was, I could have just pumped. There's a house behind the gasoline station. Boom, 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 boom. Start pounding on the door. Everybody's asleep, of course. Boom, 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 boom. Keep pounding on the door. Finally, the light comes on. Old man comes to the blinds. Yeah, go home, go home. He said, I said, I'm going to church. He said, it's Saturday, no church, no church. I'm a good boy. So I tried to explain to him, gas, church, homecoming games, all that. He wouldn't have it. What are you going to do when nobody believes you? Just keep pounding. Boom, 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 boom. Finally, the guy comes out. He's so mad. It's raining. He's pumping gas. And I said, listen, old man, I got to tell you something. When I was driving down the street here, back there at this corner, I took a hard left, and I came in there, and I could have swore I saw somebody walking back there. His eyes got really big. He said, young man, let me tell you a story. Oh, I love stories. Yeah, we love stories. I mean, a story. He says, about 20 years ago, an old man voice, right? About 20 years ago, an old man voice, he said, about 20 years ago in our little town here, we had a basketball game, homecoming season, we had a basketball game. And don't you know that we had a homecoming king and we had a homecoming queen? Like two people in the whole town, that's probably both of them, right? So they had a homecoming town, homecoming queen. He said, and on that homecoming evening, late at night, that couple was driving down that corner, down that long straight road. They had a car accident, crashed, and died. He said, our whole town, all 7 of us, our whole town, there's more people in the area, right? Our whole town, we went out there to find this accident, and we found our homecoming king dead, laying there on the side of the road next to his car. But we never found the queen. I'm thinking, yeah, right. Yeah, queen. And so he said, we never found this queen. And now we think every year about this time, about homecoming season, she's out there walking on the street looking for her king. And I'm thinking, nah, I ain't buying this. Fills up my gas tank. I pay him $2. It cost me $2 to fill up my car. It was 25 cents, $24.9 a gallon, 25 cents a gallon. I fill up my car. $2. And you know what happens next? Stops raining. Hello, God, what's that's funny. And so it's about 12:30, 12:45, took me 30, 45 minutes before I got my gas. I look at my clock, I got 2 hours to get to the church, it's not raining anymore, I got a full tank. I went back to the corner. Of course. Well, because I want to know what's going on here. I know I saw somebody walking there. There she was. This guy said that's some ghost person out there looking for her dead boyfriend of king or something. So I went back. My car was all sweaty and wet, but I don't have to worry. So I went all the way back there, and don't you know, there was somebody walking along the side of the road. Unmistakable, there she is, except she wasn't walking. When you walk, she's kind of floating. I thought, well, that's cool. Huh? I'll tell you. There she was out there. She looks white because I got my lights on like this. I thought, wow, look at that. Look at that. How she do that? So I went this way, and then I had to turn around and go back the other way. So I turned around and go back the other way, and I pulled up alongside of her. Because I want to know what's going on here. I don't believe it. There's no ghost. What's going on? What's the deal here? How does she do that? How does she float it? So I opened up my car door, right? So I opened up my car door, and when the Volkswagens are kind of short and squatty, right? The little round things. And so what I could see is I could see her neck. Her head was taller than my car, so I could see her neck. And I couldn't see her feet because it was down below the floorboard. So I could just see from here down to like the knees. And there she was, floating next to my car. So why are you kidding me? I was like, get in. What? Yeah, get in. It's raining. It's cold. Get in. Well, it was raining. It was raining. So it was wet. It's cold out there. Get in the car. I'll take you where you're going. Where you're going. Totally dumb thing to say. Because if I had not been there, I would not have believed this. Get in the car. I'll take you where you want to go. So what happens is, kind of floats into the car. You put your leg in, you come in, you sit down, you reach out, pull the door shut. It kind of floats into the car like this. But the door shuts all by itself. Okay, there's somebody in my car. Somebody's in my car. Okay. And suddenly I forgot how to speak English. Where are you going? I couldn't get a sentence. Where are you going? And no answer. Maybe she doesn't understand dumb English. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out where you're going. So, I've got good peripheral vision, right? Kind of get you look out to the right side. You can kind of see some driving. And so I can see down here, man, she has this long white, pommy looking dress, right? It's like frizzly and whatever, and got some lace and all that kind of stuff. But her hair, like really, really long, kind of like Simone when she's away. So her hair's kind of really, really long. It's all stringy, right? It's all curly and stringy because it had gotten wet. And I could just barely make out the profile of her face. Her eyes are sunk way, way back inside, and her nose is kind of pointy, and her cheeks all sucked in. Yeah, I'm serious. And I can just see this out of the corner of my eyes. And I think, where are you going? I'm going to church. My English gets better. I'm going to church. Can I take you to home or something like that? No answer. And then I did something really stupid. You think I already did stupid, right? I said, my car, what are you going to do? So on the dashboard, all I got is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. That's all there is, but there's a little bit of light at the bottom. You turn on the brights, got the high beams and low beams. You turn on the high beams. When you turn on the high beams, it gets really brighter outside, and then a little green light comes on. So I turn on my brights, little green. Suddenly my car is green. She's green. Her dress turns green. Her hair is still black and frizzly, but it's kind of green and all that kind of stuff. And I'm thinking, whoa, oh my goodness. Where are you going? And she turns.
Oh.
Yeah, now she turns to look at me. Now I can see her. I'm too scared to look. Now I can see her face there. And she's looking right at me. Her nose is all hacked up. Her lips are like cut through, and her cheeks are way in. Her eyes are deep and sunken. I can't see any blacks in the pupil of her eyes. And she's looking straight at me, and she's green. And I'm thinking, okay, well, where are you going? And so her lips begins, she yeah, she says. And then she disappears. That's how they felt.
She yelled at you.
She screamed, and then she disappeared out of my car. Where'd she go? Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm glad I had plastic seats, right? Because I needed to clean up the mess after I was all done. No. All right, so you get it, right? You get that feeling that you understand what fear feels like a little bit, right? They thought that was a ghost. Well, the biblical word for ghost is phantasma. Phantasma, apparition. It comes from the idea of magic. You can magically make people feel like they're seeing something when they're not. You can do a reflection off of water, right? If it reflects off the water and there's a up on the wall kind of a thing, well, there's somebody up there, but it's magic. They're thinking, we're seeing magic here. We're not seeing a spirit. We're not seeing something from a dead person. We're seeing some sort of a magical phenomenon going on here, but it scared them. Jane, it feels like to be scared a little bit. Yeah, now magnify that by being out in the middle of an ocean with a bunch of other men. We think Jesus was tough and he could climb mountains. Well, these guys were men because they wrestled. They wrestled fishing nets and all that kind of thing. And so, and they're all screaming. It says they saw him and they were terrified. They began to cry out. They began to cry out from their throat, from the deep. Everybody go, ah, cry, and then go see how deep you go, ah. And then you get down as low as you can, and you're screaming as loud as you can. That's what they shrieked. A bunch of men squealing like little girls. Ah! I love my daughter, but she squeals. Stop. So you got a bunch of men squealing, screeching like little girls because they're so afraid. And Jesus says, immediately, take courage. What's the opposite of fear? Courage. He says, don't be afraid, take courage. It's me. It is I. He says, I am the one it is me, me, Jesus who's here. Don't be afraid. And this is where Peter got out of the boat, but he skipped that part from his book, right? Because he was going to be embarrassed. He said, don't be afraid. And then he climbed into the boat with them. This is a big boat. We got little boats and big boats. This is their big boat, their big fishing boat where they carried all the fish, not their rowboats. So they're rowing the big boat. He climbs up in the boat, and this is the fun part for me. That was all fun anyway, but this part's really fun. the wind ceases. What's so fun about that? The word for cease here is the winds got tired. The wind. So we're thinking Jesus must be exhausted. And what turns out what got exhausted was the wind exhausted itself, because they had tried to oppose the apostles. Now the wind is trying to oppose Jesus, and it couldn't do it, because Jesus is stronger than the wind. He can create the world. He can walk on water. And they were completely astounded. They went bonkers. They were out of their minds. How could any one person like this do something like that? So it occurred to me, I asked you this question earlier, are some miracles more difficult than other miracles? Right? Are some miracles are more difficult than other miracles? So I went looking for a list of miracles, thinking, here they are. This must, if all these miracles are in the same list, and they must be equal or some degree of togetherness, right? And I found it. If we go here to look, where to go? Job. Job. What? And what's up? Well, what's up with Job? Has anybody ever read Job? Kind of know the story, right? The devil said, and Job, and all that stuff. Well, see, Job asked this question: Who? He says Jesus. He says God, the Creator, moves mountains, volcanoes and stuff. This is Job 9, verse something. Job 9, verse 5. He moves mountains. He overturns them. He shakes the earth from its place. He makes pillars tremble. He speaks to the sun, and it does not shine. That means he rotates the earth, right? He seals off the light of the stars by God is able to he's the one who rotated the earth, right? And then here, catch this, Olivia. He alone, God alone, stretches out the heavens. Tells us how God made the heavens. He stretched here, like this. He stretched them out through the stars up there. He stretches out the heavens, and he treads on the waves of the sea. He walks. Job saw that God was capable of walking on the water 3,000 years before Jesus. Job is probably the oldest person we know of in the Bible. We got Genesis 1 through 11. That's up till Noah. Then after Noah, Genesis chapter 12 is Abraham. So somewhere between Noah and Abraham is where Job fits. He's a really old story. And Job says he walks on water. He just like he stretched out the heavens and earth. He's the maker of the bear. Who's the bear? Ursa Major. Remember the constellations? I don't know either. I had to look this up. The bear, the Big Dipper. Everybody knows the Big Dipper. But if you look at the Big Dipper, you keep on going, it turns its shape into a bear. Right? He's the Orion, the hunter. He makes the hunter. These guys way back when could see the constellations. And God made them. He put the stars in their place. And Pleiades, the seven sisters. You can see this. It's like a star cluster, super bright. You can see it now in the wintertime. Go out tonight when it's really, really dark, look up in the sky, and you'll see this bunch of stars all clustered together in the northern hemisphere is that way. And you go, the seven sisters, there they are. And God puts all of them in place. When I was in the Navy, we used all sorts of different kinds of navigation. We'd use radar. You shoot something on the land and it bounce back. And it would tell us our distance. If we knew our distance, we could kind of figure out where we were. We used GPS from satellite positioning system. And then we would calculate where we are. And then we would kind of anticipate how fast we're going, how much is the current and all that kind of. There was a whole bunch of ways for us to navigate and figure out where we are. But there was one source of navigation that never, ever, ever made a mistake. Radar would make a mistake. Our calculations based on the currents would make a mistake. There was one source of navigation that was 100% accurate 100% of the time, and that was the stars. So we would do celestial star navigation. We would plot them, calculate them, and we could be more accurate with the stars. We could be more accurate with the stars than with satellite. The highest technology could not outperform the accuracy of the stars. And who put those stars there in their place and told them to stay? That's right, Jesus, the same man who can walk on water. Well, isn't that cool? You see, Jesus is so far above everybody else. and what he could do. He got in the boat with them. The winds got tired. They were stunned because they didn't understand about the loaves. They just saw him feed 5,000 people, but they couldn't think, well, if he can do that, he might be able to do it. They couldn't put those together. How disappointing would it be to Jesus to see that the miracles he's doing in front of them, they still don't quite grasp what things he's able to do. Instead, their hearts were hardened. The word here is calloused. They had calluses on their heart. They were insensitive. They were incapable of feeling because the heart had been so calloused. And so they finally got to the other side. They came to Gennesaret, and they anchored there. Very, very easy. The people got out of the boat. They climbed down on the boat, and everybody recognized them. We've seen this before. They hurried. They started running around the region, began to carry the stick. They started running around and carrying people around on mats, wherever they heard he was. Wherever Jesus, this is inbound church. Wherever they heard Jesus was, they brought it to him. Wherever Jesus was, they came to him. Jesus didn't have to go out and reach 10,000 people. 10,000 people came running upon him. Wherever he went, the villages, towns, countries, they lay sick in the marketplace, and they begged him that they might touch the end of his robe. How would they think that, man? What if I just touch the end of his robe? Because of the woman. The woman had snuck up under the crowd, reached out and touched his robe. Power had left him, and she was healed. Well, if we do that, the word got around, and everyone who touched him was healed. And so what happens here is we begin to think, where am I? Where are we in this story? You know, are we like the apostles in the boat? We don't quite get it. Are we like Peter, who jumped in the water? He walked for a while, got scared, and Jesus rescued him. Are we like sick people, and we're running around trying to find Jesus the best we can and get him to heal us? Or, you know, where are we at in the story? Who do we identify with? And the answer to that question is, we are to be like Jesus. Well, I can't do miracles. Well, but I can muster up all my power, and I can keep going when everybody else stops. Hey, I can't read God's mind, but I can pray. You know, prayers. We're going to talk about that this afternoon. Prayer is such a cool phenomenon. You know, how do we hear the things that God has to say to us? I'm going to tell you how to do that after we have lunch. We can actually say something, and here comes a like. Oh, that's what you want. That's a good idea. And so prayer, we can communicate with God. We can pause. We can take time. We can climb mountains. We can isolate ourselves. And we can sit with God. We can do those things. Jesus did that. When everybody else is afraid, we can be unafraid. When nobody else knows what to do, we can know what to do. There's so many things that Jesus did that are so cool. And the Bible doesn't tell us to be like the apostles. It doesn't tell us to be like disciples. It tells us to be like Jesus. All right, so that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Okay, turn the button off. I was going to say something really smart, and I couldn't think of anything to say.
Yeah, life is still on. You can still do it. There's no such thing as good.
Janice, hey Janice! Woo!